YouTube, welcome to Wired In Daily, where we talk about the real. We talk about current events, we talk about sports, we talk about God, we talk about relationships. Make sure you enjoy the video, you like and share, subscribe. Share with your grandma, your mama, your grandpa, anybody in your family and friends. Enjoy the video, and I'll see you there. Man, humble beginnings. What is going on?
Here we go.
Man, it's a pleasure to have you on here. Everybody say hello to Humble Beginnings. He is a pastor. So I got to get him some hard questions that make him think. Maybe some horny questions too.
There we go. Let's go.
How you been? What's going on?
Good. Everything's been going great. The channel is growing and we're able to really reach a lot of people. Just looking forward to seeing what God's going to do in the near future. But it's always a pleasure to be on. And,
Hey, man, let's talk about our relationship. You want to talk about it, or I could talk about it? What you want to do?
Come on, we can kind of bounce off of each other. You can go ahead.
So I met this man in church. I'm like, man, who is this? Who is this guy? Black wife, kids. I said, he want to take the black women away from us, right? And I was like, I don't like him already.
The story of my life.
I ain't like you. And then out of nowhere, shoot, we just connected in the gym. I'll let you tell that part, because you was on the journey. You was already on the journey, but you go.
Absolutely. The Bible talks about our bodies being the temple of the living God, and I had entered into a contest and I needed some extra help. And I remember when you had volunteered, you're like, you know what, I'll take you on. I'll get you in the gym. I'll get you right. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, sure. And then the first day in the gym, I was like, man, he's training me like I'm trying to get into the NFL. I was like, what in the world is going on here?
Damn near.
But hey, we made it. We got number one in the contest. And so with that being said, it was ultimately the beginning of what we didn't expect that we'd be here right now. So
10 years later, he still won't get away from me.
10 years later.
10 years later.
Man.
Mr. Man.
The ups, the downs, the hills, the valleys.
Shoot. Ups and downs, hills, the valleys. We working together. We're working out together, working together, building together. It's like I'm married to this man. Yeah, man, I do got some questions for you.
All right.
Since you are a pastor, what you feel like, what's one thing you feel like the church struggle with?
I really believe that one of the major disconnects is the fact of discipleship. And when it comes down to real life discipleship, I just feel like in a lot of ways, I recognize that there's a disconnect of what does your life look like beyond Sunday morning, and the being intentional about getting in one another's life and really seeing the dark side. I think that a lot of people are ashamed of the dark side. They're ashamed of being judged or being looked down upon. But the fact of the matter is that when you connect at that level, that's where true discipleship and fruitfulness can begin to manifest.
I think that's a good answer, but I gotta tell you, on this podcast, we gotta be real. I feel like a lot of people don't open up in the church because you are gonna be judged, and I feel like once you open up, people can hold stuff against you. I remember it was a time my dad he wanted to open up, and he gave an opinion about something in the church, and that person he opened up to said, remember you X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, my dad, and it's people in the church that's now he hesitant.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now you don't want to go to church no more. Now you don't want to go to that particular church. Now you stepping back and going home, and now you watching it on TV.
So I think it's discipleship is good. I think that's a good answer, but I think also it's hard, really, 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 really hard to open up to a person that you'll see most likely every Sunday, right? And they know the things that you struggle with. I think sometimes they use it as a weapon.
Yeah, and I think that's true in some cases. I just don't think it's true in all. And I think that the disconnect in that, the fallacy in that thinking is this, is that somebody offends us or does that in the church and we label the church did this to me, rather than, to your point, holding the person accountable to say, hey, listen, God calls you as a brother to be able to conceal a matter and not do exactly what you just said to offend a brother. So I think that where we go wrong at is that every time something goes wrong, we say it is the church as a whole.
Right.
When you have to be honest with yourself to say, the whole church didn't do that to me. It was one individual in the church who did it. And instead of correcting the person, we just condemn the whole church.
Yeah. You made me think about, I used to use this scenario where when you're in the world and you go to a bad club, you don't blame the whole club. Right? You know, what you do is, or if you do blame the club or whatever, you go to a different one.
Exactly.
If you don't like the food at the restaurant, you go to a different restaurant. And I feel like people that say, well, the church this and that, sometimes I think it's an excuse not to go to church at all.
And that's correct. Absolutely, it really is. And that's the pressure, though. You gotta, and here's the freeing part of that. When you know who you are in God as a pastor, you know, having dealt with people that come from all different backgrounds, you have to be confident in that what God has called you to do, because you can't appease everybody.
Right.
You know, you can't listen to somebody's opinion and all of a sudden change the way that you do things because of one individual or maybe even a few. You have to be consistent, and you have to be willing to be unmovable to say, you know what, this is who we are. Just like we have to accept you the way that you are until the Lord brings you to that place. I think that's where the double standard lies within the church, where we have these expectations of the church, of the pastor, of the ministry. And instead of waiting to see what God's going to do through us in that capacity, we just dismiss and say, well, I'll just go, to your point, I'll go to the restaurant down the road. I'll just go down to that church down the road because I like how the way that they do things.
Can you be gay and still be a Christian?
That's a really good question. To be honest, so to answer the question, I don't think that you can be gay necessarily and be a Christian. I think that you can be someone who is coming out of that lifestyle and still struggling with gay tendencies. You know, my mentor, I watched him work with many men that were gay, that had came out of single family mothers were raising their boys. And the unfortunate side is that when you don't allow your boys to be mentored by other men, and, you know, here's the issue, is that some young men are turned out in church. That's the sad part about it. You know, you have women who are entrusting the deacon or the elders to father their son, only to realize they're touching their son. And that's the dirty side that a lot of leaders don't want to deal with. You know, what I watched in my life, my mentor, he taught me how to, you know, love your wife. And I watched him every day. He would pick me up, right? I lived out in like 35 minutes away from his house. He would pick me up. I would go with him to take his sons and his daughters to school every morning. I'd go with him throughout the day. I watched his whole life from prayer and Bible study and all that. I went to Bible conferences with him, all of that. And he taught me through his example. He modeled what it meant to be a man, how to love your wife, what it meant to be a leader in the church, how to, to mentor others and not just sit there and call yourself a Christian, but you're not pouring your life into others. And I watched him do that. And let me tell you this. I watched him get burned so many times to the point where I'm like, man, can you take another jab? Can you take another dagger? And I watched him just brush it off and keep on trucking. He never, ever, even to this day, has never given up. He's still mentoring people.
Hey, man, you talk about mentoring, which leads to my next question. It's like, man, not only just, the church touching or, people in leadership in churches touching the boys and girls, but wives too. They want to counsel your wife one-on-one. That's another thing I was thinking about with my wife. Like, I'll be open to counseling, just to do it, just to, be more. I feel like that's how you grow as a couple. But, me coming from the city and knowing how, what's a good word for Negroes think, coming from, we once was lost. You know what I'm saying? So I know how they think. I know the tendencies. But I ain't doing that. I'll mess around, go crazy up in that church. You know what I'm saying? So how do you navigate that? Like, how do you discern where you don't want to be overprotective, or in the sense of you don't want to be over analytical about, what could be? Because to get counseling or get mentor, you have to be open. You can't be guarded up. So how do you go about that if you trying to get counsel or mentor with your wife intentionally? You know what I'm saying?
Right. That has a lot to do with trial and error. And here's the thing. Because in the beginning stages, you're not going to know what the boundaries are until actually you've walked in it.
Okay.
And so there has to be a level of trust being developed. There's going to be times where the individuals that are mentoring you are going to make the mistake of just going above and beyond what your expectation is. However, that's where transparency and honesty is, and says, hey, we're not ready for that yet, and just being honest and say, well, I don't think we need help in that area, or I think you're going a little bit too far.
Right.
Because that's one of the hardest parts when it comes down to it, because again, when you're receiving that mentoring, a lot of mentors, I'll tell it to you like this, and this isn't every mentor, but everyone that mentors you wants to see you be successful, and the reason being is because they're pouring their life into you, right? But where mentors get the misunderstanding of the relationship is that those that you're mentoring, they're going to make mistakes. Right. They're going to have their own preferences. You have to honor that. You have to understand that there's that fine line. They're not going to look exactly like the way you are. They're not going to be the exact way that you are. God's going to mold them and shape them through your example, but they're going to get an understanding, and they're going to keep their unique identity. And then from that part, they're going to glean the necessary things that they need to make them more and more like Christ and help them and cause their relationship to flourish. So I think for mentors, they need to be encouraged in the sense that, hey, God is using you to further them along, but also the appreciation of the dynamic of diversity, understanding that what makes you and your wife who you are is exactly the core and the foundation of who you are and what you're yet to become. It's just a matter of the mentor God using them to pull those things out of you so that you can become the couple that he wants you to be.
So I'm gonna be honest with you, Mr. Humble Beginnings. I don't think I could be a mentor. I don't think I could be in a position, pastoral right now. I'm still growing in my faith, because if a husband tells me his wife and being doing backflips and jumping in and he can't handle it, he leaving the room in 5 seconds and stuff, I'm gonna be like, dang, what she got?
Well,
I'm not ready for that stuff, man. And I'm being
and
real.
that takes maturity.
Yeah.
It takes maturity.
But I want to be real with you. It's pastors that can't handle that. And now they take an interest in the wife.
And I don't want to put no one on blast, so I'll put it to you like this. I've heard in my time in ministry so many stories, and it is devastating, some of the things that you hear. I think that one of the most devastating things that you have to hear about is when there's infidelity and there's that break of that relationship. That's the most heartbreaking one.
Shoot, the time is flying. I gotta give you more questions. Okay. You carry, right?
Absolutely.
Why, if the Lord is protecting you? Why would you carry,
Because you
Pastor?
still have to be wise.
Oh, come on, man.
You got to be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. You know?
So you carry. Listen, I say if you carrying a gun, right? I don't think you have your full trust in God.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's great that you have that opinion. I think that it's more of an opinion, and it's kind of like a personal conviction.
Okay.
Some people don't believe that you should carry, right? But you and I both know that we're living in a day and time where when you're speaking the truth, people will just act out crazily. And let's just put it this way. Yes, we do wrestle against flesh and blood, but sometimes that in that flesh, those demons get in that flesh and the evil comes out. And guess what? Sometimes you have to eliminate the threat.
Absolutely.
And the thing about it is that, the scripture, this one scripture, this pastor, it makes me laugh all the time because he always tells me, why die before your time, brother? That's what he told me. He's locking up he's got his M16 and all that, just going crazy. But I think all believers, honestly, that can handle that type of responsibility, we're living in a day and time where people are coming into the house of God and they're shooting it up. They're driving their car through, and so it's definitely there's a war out there.
When I hear stuff like that, and this is why I feel like God called me to do this podcast because when we have our conversations and stuff, I think about it like if they willing to shoot a church up and drive cars through stuff, then this is the truth.
Absolutely.
Because why would you do that to a lie? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's crazy that any other religion or any other culture influence follower somebody on social media, they can just talk dumb, talk what they talk. They either get praise on it or they just be like, oh, it's just whatever.
Absolutely.
But as soon as you mention Jesus, oh, shoot.
That's when they start saying Allah Akbar and all that stuff.
Yep, that's when the plane
They
falling.
want to get crazy.
That's when bombs going off. And logically, this is where when I sit alone with myself and I lay in the bed, I'm like, man, if they willing to risk their own life to die before their time,
right,
to kill you, then this Bible has to be real. I think that's one of the reasons why I became a Christian, because I'm like, that's one thing I noticed. Like any other religion can talk about their God and talk about their steps they doing and how they trying to be better as a person, and we all like clapping and crazy. But as soon as you talk about sin, you talk about Jesus, you censored.
Well, what's crazy about that is, I don't know if you've seen it on Fox Sports just recently. Did you see the sportscast where the Muslim man there was a female broadcaster, and she went to shake his hand and he went like this, out of respect for his wife. And so many people had said, wow, I can't believe she got offended. He's just standing for his respect for his wife and his faith. But if a Christian does that,
oh yeah,
oh, it's everyone's going to put it on blast. That was rude. That was how, where's the love of Jesus in that?
I'm bouncing around with questions because I don't know. We start talking and the time just flies. We talked about married couples getting counsel, right? And you have counseled couples before. My question is, how many times a married couple should be having sex a week?
That's personal prerogative.
Personal? Okay.
I think as far as like, whatever your level is,
I'm horny, so
I would say, you just have to keep one another happy. Marriage is honorable. The bed is undefiled. Now, however you do that is between you and your wife.
Hold on. That's a good question because I think, Jimmy, we had this conversation. If the bed is undefiled, that means there's no limits.
Right. So there's no limits beyond. As long as it's within the realm of conviction. Okay. As long as you're not violating one another, right?
So we can do whatever
if you wanna, whatever it is within the line of conviction.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
As long as you're not violating her conscience or she's not violating yours, that's between you and your wife.
Okay.
Because here's the thing, you're keeping one another pleased and at bay, and if you're doing that sufficiently, you won't have to worry about.
So we can do like Future, the thumbs and the butt and all that stuff. You could do that.
That is your personal conviction.
Okay. I got my answer.
All I have to say is, where does it tell you in the Bible what you can and cannot do?
That's all.
And so that's why it's like, hey, if you want to, wherever you place your mouth and everything else, that's on you.
No. And this is what I want to say because
I'm glad you're bringing it up.
We don't talk about these things in the church, and I feel like in this podcast, like there's Christians that like anal sex, right? They like anal sex, and they feel like they can't ask or have this conversation with a pastor because they might get judged.
Right.
I'm not into it.
To be frankly honest with you, it's nothing to judge someone about. Here's the problem. This is where the rubber meets the road in this type of subject.
I thought you was about to say the rubber meets the what?
So this is where it gets tough. It really gets tough because, when you're counseling a couple and let's say in the world they were used to a certain position. Right. Now they get sanctified, and the husband, to your point, is all horny like you are. Yeah. You don't want her just to be like, oh, all we can do is missionary. You are going to have an attitude problem like, I know you are tripping. Right. And so you can't violate their conscience. And now what I'll tell you is that as long as you're not swinging, because that's definitely out of order. Okay. You're not bringing other couples into your relationship, and all that other kind of crazy stuff.
So, okay. What if my wife was okay? Okay, hold on. When I'm not a swinger, this is just hypothetical, okay?
Thank God.
I'm not a swinger because nobody's entering my wife. Nah, it was on that. But anyway, that's kind of crazy.
That's crazy. But you have people.
Now, so this is the question: is what if we both consent to have another female in the bed? What would you say about that?
I would say that's adultery.
No. But I'm not with her. It's more like I'm watching, or it's more.
That's homosexuality.
Oh yeah. Okay. You're right.
So yeah, that's where it becomes defiled and perverted.
Okay, that's perversion then. That's perversion. Yeah. But it's men in the church that probably, I'm gonna be real. I've had that thought.
Not to really, I'm not gonna. It's not that like the individuals know who I'm talking about, but I've known pastors that have asked other couples to enter into their bedroom with church members.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, that is crazy. How do you just preached a sermon and you're really gonna do that? No, you're really gonna
can't trust him. He cooked. He's cooked.
Bro, not only cannot trust him, but he can't preach to me. I'm sorry. Nah. I don't want to hear nothing that you have to say. Nah. And you're inviting,
He went in. That's what it is.
Oh, absolutely.
He went in. Man, that's crazy. And I think when you finally, get your church going or whatever, I think you should be open and with your members, because I feel like I think a lot of people will come to faith, because that was the main reason why I came to faith too, was like, man, shout out to Emery from Refreshing Springs. Like, I was like, man, he's talking just like me, and this is, I feel that too. You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about sex and stuff, I think the church stray away from that. My other question is, why do the church act oblivious to these sins? Like, you got men that's walking around horny and women that's walking around horny, right? And then when they get in the church, like, oh, I don't want to hear that. That we don't do that here. And it's like, hold on. The mother of the church or the first lady was probably the one going crazy in the world. And then she got saved. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You should be able to be honest. You got to be honest. Like, I got daughters. I'm going to tell them, there ain't no sucking going on in here. Like, he going to tell you to suck this and it's not. No, you shouldn't. If that's not your husband, you shouldn't be. I'm just being honest. You should have a pride about how you carry yourself. And he's trying to do X, Y, and Z. He don't love you. He's trying to just use you for his horniness.
And I think too, the reason why that is because we created this almost like this world that doesn't exist. Like, it's a false world. Like, okay, you have the sacred and the secular.
Yeah.
And so when they call it when they enter into this quote unquote sacred, they don't want to talk about those things.
And I don't like that. So
that's why.
I don't like that.
And to your point, can you imagine what people are going to think when you're sitting there with a bunch of men and they're like, man, I'm horny, I'm smashing this and third.
Bro, but it creates a culture. Nah, it's discretion. Like, we not like when me and Jim talk, right? We not glorifying it. It's a difference between talking about it, like, man, I'm like, because at the end of the day, I'm gonna tell my kids, like, dude, it's okay to have those feelings of being horny.
Right.
God made you like that, to be with your potential wife and husband, right? Everybody, if you got kids, at one point, you was horny. Right. Like, yes. Like, you feel me?
Right.
It's nothing wrong with it. I think the reason why it's something wrong, because it's a fallen world. It's perverted. Right. Like, God is pleased. God was pleased when Adam knew Eve. Like, he was pleased with it. He designed it. And I think it just got tainted because of the devil. And now it's like, when we talk about sex in church, it's like it's the elephant in the room. It's the elephant in the room where, but what is just mind-boggling to me is that the same church people that's so holy, man, I know a couple, they was going crazy. And then you get the couples, I know you counsel some couples like this. Not a woman going crazy, doing whatever, having sex, whatever, doing whatever in the man. But I see it particularly with the woman. Then they get married and they don't want to have sex with the husband. How does that work? But you was out single with the men going crazy, but now your husband and you using sex as a weapon and don't want to
Absolutely. But to your point, the reason why it's the elephant in the room is due to the fact that when those type of topics, a lot of people are so private about it that they don't want to get into the details. However, a lot of them are suffering.
Listen, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm not going to say no names, but the person that's watching this, she mentored a lot of women, right? A lot of women. A lot of church women, and I'm going to say this, is not being satisfied by their husbands.
And the sad part about it is that there's no one to really intervene in that, in the sense of being honest and transparent to say, hey, listen, Your wife's not being satisfied, and that's a problem.
Oh, imagine a pastor telling another man, your wife. That,
First of all, let me just put it this way.
I get it.
I'm not telling another man that his wife's not being satisfied, because you know what that's going to look like?
Yes, I
Pastor,
know.
what you know about my wife? And then before you know it, we out in the back, going off like, hey.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. That's why you need to have discipleship going on where that conversation is being had.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. People I've counseled, I've asked them straight up, how's your sex life? Right at the table. That's my first opening question. Because if you're married and you're not having sex, therein lies the problem. Either she's weaponizing it or there's an underlying issue there.
Right. Man, I feel like having this conversation, man. Whoever's watching this, I don't want to start an argument in your household, but it's important to be honest about who's getting satisfied, who is not being satisfied.
Exactly.
And Mr. Humble Beginnings, man, I couldn't do that one. I couldn't, counseling married couples, and you got to be blunt, right?
You have to be.
Man. I'll be beating behind the bush. I try to be real, but I feel like I could be real with like myself. But if I had a couple in front and I could tell, like, okay.
Can you imagine though? Let's just kind of like go even a little bit deeper. Let's say you're counseling, because you're counseling a couple, and the reason why they're not having sex is because the husband's dirty or the wife's dirty, right? No, because here's the thing. You're talking about the elephant in the room.
Right.
But no man wants to go down on a dirty woman.
Right.
And no woman wants to go down on a dirty man.
Right.
So what are you saying? What I'm saying is that sex was meant to be in the covenant of marriage. And to your point, so why don't we as a church discuss those things? You know why? It's because there's that level of depth where people will think, man, if I go to the leadership about this, or anyone in the church for that matter, then what if it leaks out? What if it leaks out that I'm being chained to the bed at night? And because you got to realize people do come from some pretty deep, dark stuff,
Right.
And the husband might not be all about chaining you to the bed or whatever, but these are the skeletons in the closet that need to come forth. And then let's not get into those that are married and masturbating because they're not being pleased, to your point. So you're causing your spouse to fall into sin, and you're not being honest about that there's a real problem. And if you don't get that part of your marriage resolved, there's two things that cause divorce: the bedroom and the finances.
Right.
If those two things aren't in order, you're going to have chaos and destruction.
Right. Man, humble beginnings, man. You make me think about, man, I'm about to take this off and, hey.
Do that after I leave.
Anyway, I just, all I can say is, man, I think honesty, being transparent with your partner is important. You would say, right?
Absolutely.
With my wife, I be honest. I try to be honest. I tell her what it is and what it ain't. But I'll never to no grown man say, I think it's hard to talk about who's getting satisfied or not, because I know me as, like, just say I was a pastor too, in counseling. Set the pastor aside. I'm still a man at the end of the day. So
absolutely,
man, I couldn't do it. I couldn't open up. I think I'll probably be victim of falling in that lie and pretending like everything is good
when it's not.
And I think that's
so. Then there's the other question: is the elephant in the room? It's both sides, because people don't really want to open up about those things.
I respect it.
In one sense, okay, is the church not being real? And then in the other sense is
I think, all right, I'm going to say this. The church is not being real in one sense. When they deem sex as like bad, right? you know, especially when they look down on the younger kids. Like, these younger kids, dude, I know how I felt when I was young. Dudes, don't act like, it's like adults act like they never been a kid before. You know? So, and that's why when it comes to my daughters, I already know, like, hey, you're gonna start developing. You're gonna take a shower and look at yourself in the mirror. Those boys on the playground gonna look at you, and you gonna have it. I know what it is. When a boy tell you, like, you know, daddy love you, but when your peers saying, hey, you look good, and talk, I was that peer talking, spitting game. I know it's there. And I feel like when you get around church, this is what I used to hate, is that they have it's almost felt like a cult, like, where they, like, pretend like this outside world didn't exist.
Demonize sex or
demonize
ignore
sex.
it.
Yeah, they just, and it's like, dude, come on now.
But can I be honest with you? It starts at home. It starts at home. We have to teach our children. A lot of people say, well, why has sex been so looked at in such a negative light? Or virginity, let's use that for example.
Oh.
If you don't teach your daughter that the very gift she has, the very one gift that was meant for one man, which will be her husband, is that gift of virginity. Number one, to let her know that God gave her that gift to hold on to and to protect until she says, I do at the altar. Let's be honest, I wasn't taught that as a young man. I was just threatened. My mom told me, if you ever get a woman pregnant, you know, that's going to be it. You know, and my dad, you know, he was like, you better not, you know, but that's it. You're taught to, you better not, but okay, I'm looking at a female, and to your point, you know, as you get older, you know, you start looking at their figure and you be like, man, you know.
Yeah. They start talking to you. Right.
And so if you don't teach young people, and this is what a lot of people do, they put it on the parents to say, or the parents will put it on the church to say, it's your job to teach my child, because they don't want to have that conversation with their child. So if you teach your daughters young that you have something that everybody wants, but if you give it prematurely, you will lose all respect from any other man.
Hey,
except to be for the grace of God.
Yep.
You will lose respect, and they will always look at you like, oh man, she's just another body. And that's a conversation that needs to be had.
Definitely.
Because, you know, I do know some churches where they celebrate virginity to the point where they had all the virgins come up, men and women, right? And they celebrated them. They honored them. You know, they gave them like gift certificates to certain things. Why did they do that? Because the pastor wanted them to know, you're able to give something to your spouses that I wasn't able to give to mine. And him and his wife both testified about the beauty of virginity and how they wish they had to go through the downfall of giving it away. Man. You know, I was blessed that my wife was my only, but not too many can say that. And that's not to put nobody down. That's not to rub anybody's past in their face and say, oh, you're a scum and a skag. You know what I'm saying? You're a scrub. No, that's to say, you talk about impacting other generations. How do we turn it around? It begins at home. And then the church they come along and they reinforce it and say, hey, this is the purpose of your virginity. This is what this is all about.
Man, I want to go deeper because it's something that you missed on or you touched on a little bit, but we running out of time.
Well, just try to kind of summarize it if you can.
I can't summarize it.
Oh, okay.
I can't.
Well, that's for the next time.
We're going to have to go to the next episode of, the importance of keeping your virginity and why. And you touched on it a little bit, but it was a pleasure,
absolutely,
to have you on, and to everybody that's watching. Amen. Man, be honest with your spouse. Be honest, man, because I know it's a sticky subject. It's a sticky topic, but I think it allow y'all both to grow and be open about certain things you like or don't like, and there's nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
Because I know we had those conversations in the world.
That's right.
I remember late night texting. What you like? I'm being real, and I think when we get into a church, we feel like we can't do that now. You can do it now. You should have been doing it before.
Exactly.
Man, talk your stuff now. What you like, what you don't like. You know what I'm saying? But it was, again, it's a pleasure. You touched some stuff where I'm thinking about, like, man, it'd be hard for me. It'd be hard for me to go to a grown man and be like, I haven't had sex for 6 months and my wife never comes home. That's embarrassing too, and I don't want to even get into that. So I thank you again for.
Hey, it's a pleasure.
Thank you for coming on here. We gotta get many more in, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, so make sure you like, share, subscribe. Tell your mama, your daddy, your grandma, your cousin, your wife, your husband. Wired In is always keeping it real, always keeping it real. Again, shout out to Humble Beginnings. If you don't know his channel, it'd be somewhere around here somewhere.
There we go.
All right, y'all. Peace.
I ain't good with the rhyming. Throw the fade, that's a diamond. Young king, I'm your highness. In a drip, I'm drowning. See that.